Hey. Good. Feels like a long time since I've seen you. I think because we had the typhoon, right? Of course, the typhoon didn't do much to Taichung. After we had 2 days off and nothing happened, I was wondering if we were going to actually have a third day off. But again, nothing happened. So I guess that's the way it is with Taichung. Southern Taiwan got lots of rain and wind and storm. And Taipei, northern Taiwan, also got lots of rain, but central Taiwan didn't really have anything. There wasn't even much rain or wind, so I guess we're very fortunate in that regard. I think it's really tough. Some of my friends ask me, they say, well, how come the government calls off work, they're in school because nothing happened in Taichung? But I kind of think, with the way things are with a mayor in this kind of situation, there's an expression I use when someone asks me that. Maybe you've heard this expression. It's I don't know if you've heard this expression. It says, damned if I do and damned if I don't. Or you could say damned if you do or damned if you don't. So damned, what's another word for damned? Cursed, yeah. So cursed. Now, of course, when we use the word here, this isn't like using a bad word or anything like that. It means just simply you were cursed. Okay, so I guess you could say cursed if I do and cursed if I don't. So what does this expression mean? Right. Either way, you lose. It means whatever I do, I can't win. Sometimes we hear about a win-win situation. This is like a lose-lose situation. So for the mayor of a city like Taichung, if she says, okay, tomorrow we're going to still work and have school, and then the storm hits or it rains real hard, there's a lot of wind, then of course that'd be like saying damned, cursed. And then if she doesn't, if she does call the work day off, say there's no school, and then nothing happens, then people say, why do you waste the whole working day? So it's like it's like you can't do anything to win. It's like either way you lose. I guess that's another way of saying it. You could say either way you lose. Okay, either whatever you do, it's not going to work out. So anyhow, damned if I do, damned if I don't. This is a very common expression. So why don't we say together, damned if I do, damned if I don't. Right. So it just means whatever I do, it's not going to help or not going to work. So yeah, I think that's the way it is with the typhoon days in Taichung. I was joking to my friends. I said, the next time the mayor says, okay, we're going to have school, we're going to have work, then the typhoon will probably hit Taichung. So yeah, I don't know. But anyhow, I'm happy that we didn't have much impact here in central Taiwan from that storm, although we did not get a chance to meet together for that class. So anyhow, have all of you been going to the jazz festival? Has anyone been to the jazz festival? Okay, good. So last night was the first night I did not go to the jazz festival. So I went the first 5 nights. I went Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Yes, last night I had something going on, so I couldn't go. But I think I'll go again tonight. So yeah, it's fun. It's a free concert. It's a good time. The weather's beautiful. And so my friends and I like to go and check that out. If you haven't been to the Jazz Festival, definitely go. It's a lot of fun, and it goes until this coming Sunday. It starts every night at 7 p.m., except on on Saturday and Sunday this coming weekend, it starts around 5:30 p.m. and goes till about 9:30 p.m. So anyhow, it's fun. It's a good time. Okay, so anyhow, I thought we would start with this story. It's very funny. This happened the other day, and to my knowledge, no one I knew was paying any attention to this. I wasn't paying any attention to it until that night I got home and I read the international news, not the local news, but the international news. I was like, oh, okay, interesting. And that was it, So it wasn't, to me at least, it didn't feel like a big deal. But anyhow, I thought we should look at this article, mainly because the reason I picked this article is because there's some good words. You know, I'm always looking for new words to learn, that we can learn new vocabulary words, and this article has some words like that. Okay, so I'll start with the headline here. It says, China's drills backfired, NSB chief says. Disproportionate. The military exercise has created a negative effect in that it made the international community more supportive of Taiwan, Tsai Ming-yen said. Okay, so the first word I want to look at here is, of course, what is a drill? Exercise, okay, I guess we say yin shi, right? Okay, so of course China a couple days ago or 2-3 days ago, they had these military exercises or drills around Taiwan. Now, what are some other kinds of drills that we have? Now, this would be a military drill, but what are some other drills that we have? Fire drill, right? So maybe when you were at school, when you were a student, or even later, your school might have had a fire drill. So if there's a fire, what do you do? Where do you go? How do you evacuate the building? Things like that. What are some other drills we have in Taiwan? Earthquake drill, yeah. So I know students practice, you know, getting under their desk or protecting themselves. I know in Taiwan every year we have air raid drill, right? What is that? It's not Han Guang, it's the, oh, yeah. They have once a year. And I always have to tell my foreign friends who are just recently arrived in Taiwan, I'm like, don't worry, this is normal. But make sure you're not outside, right? Because if you're outside, then you have to go find somewhere to shelter. So I always remind my foreign friends who have first time in Taiwan to just go somewhere, go to a 7-Eleven and relax or be in your house or office. Okay, so anyhow, we have many kinds of drills. Now, there's another meaning for drill that's completely different, and what is that? Yeah, it's a drill. Like if I want to make a hole in the floor or in the wall, there's a tool that I have that will drill a hole. We call that a drill. Now, of course, there's big drills, like if you want to drill for oil. Let's say, you know, we're looking for oil somewhere, and they have this giant drill, and it drills very deep into the ground, and then there's oil. Or water, you know, we drill for water. So drill can be a noun, a means, or a verb, 动词. So why don't we say this word together? Drill. Drill. Okay, so it's a good word. Second word I think is more interesting. That word is backfire. What does backfire mean? Yeah, if you do something and it backfires on you, what does that mean? It means that it has the opposite effect that you want it to have, right? So let's say that I want to punish someone, or I want to get even with somebody because I think they did something bad to me, and I do something to them, but instead of hurting them, it hurts me. Okay, that's called backfire. So it backfires on me. So often we talk about someone's plan backfired, or someone's idea backfired. It means instead of doing what it wanted them to do, it had the opposite effect, or it came back on them instead of going the direction they wanted to. Does everybody understand that? Yeah, but it could be a side effect, but a side effect could be anything. A side effect could be anything that happens on the side of something. It could be good or bad. A side effect could be, for example, when you eat medicine, you 吃药, right? If you take medicine, it may have certain side effects, right? For example, I know if you have a 感冒 and you take certain 感冒 medicine, it might make you sleepy, right? They say you should be careful if you take cold medicine, because if you're driving a car and you fall asleep, that could be very obviously dangerous. We call that a side effect. So often, or side effects, often when we say, what are the side effects of this medicine? If I take this medicine, are there any side effects? Okay. And so this is something that we're always looking at. What are the side effects of something? Now, of course, there are many other side effects. There could be the side effects of I don't know, a storm or a plan or something else, something that happens. Besides the main impact, 影响, there's some other effects from that. So anyhow, that's a similar thing. But yeah, backfire may be a side effect, but it's not always the same. So why don't we say this together? Backfire. backfired. Side effects. Side effects. Okay, next word, big word, disproportionate, okay? This is a very big word, and I don't know, I don't think we've ever studied this word before, but what does disproportionate mean? Well, it means basically, okay, there's a word in here that you may notice, proportion, okay? And proportion, what would be a very simple word for proportion? Or size, okay, size, okay? So when we say something is disproportionate, it means it is out of size. It's too big. It's too much for something. So I'm trying to think of an example. Let's say somebody comes up to me and says, you know, I don't like you very much, right? And I decide to hit them in the face. I punch them in the face. That would be a very disproportionate reaction, right? Because all they said was some words to me and then I attacked them. So basically my response, my reaction is much bigger than it should be, or it's abnormal. It's not normal. It doesn't match the thing that happened. So when one thing does not match another thing, it's usually too much bigger than it should be. Then we say it's disproportionate. Okay, so we'll see here when we read this article, we'll see what, you know, I think what they mean here is Taiwan's president said some things and then China had this huge reaction. So the reaction was much bigger than necessary. It was too big. It was oversized. It did not match the first action did not match the second action did not match the first action. Does everybody understand what I'm trying to say? Okay. So we often use this word disproportionate. If something is much bigger than it should be, it's too big, much bigger than what caused it. Okay. So why don't we say together, disproportionate. Disproportionate. Okay. So yeah, basically that's what they're saying about this exercise. So it says the military exercise. Now again, this word exercise is the same as that word drill. Okay. Military drill, military exercise created a negative effect. And negative, what does negative mean? Bad. You know, what is it? 否定, right? What's the opposite of negative? Positive. Yeah. So often we say, what are the negatives and what are the positives of his plan? Okay. So we can use this as a 形容词, but sometimes we can also use it as a noun. We can say, what are the negatives with a S of his idea? What are the positives of his idea? Then it becomes kind of a noun, but usually this is a 形容词. So why don't we say together negative, negative, positive, positive. Yeah, 肯定的. So, you know, sometimes we say he is a very positive person or she is a very negative person or he has a negative attitude towards life. Okay. So anyhow, they're saying the impact, the effect, the 影响 of or 结果 was negative in that it made the international community more supportive of Taiwan. Okay. So these are some, we've already learned several words here, but let's go ahead and read the article and see what it says. Okay. So it says here the Chinese military drills around Taiwan on Monday were shorter and smaller in scale than similar drills in May, but still backfired. Based on the reaction of the international community, National Security Bureau Director Tsai Ming-yen said yesterday. Okay, so this kind of is what we were just talking about. The drills were shorter and smaller in scale. Now, again, what's another word for scale? Scope, but there's even a more simple word. Size, yeah. You know, we say, what is the scale of your plan? Or what is the scale of this building? What we're saying is, how big is it? What's the size? Okay. Now, he used the word scope, S-C-O-P-E. Scope is also more like range. You know, what is the scope of your plan? How much does it cover? Okay. What is the range of, you know, how much does this cover? So I guess scope is kind of similar to size, but it's more like the range. How broad or how narrow is it? Okay. So anyhow, let's read this together. The Chinese military drills. Let's say that again. Military drills around Taiwan on Monday were shorter and smaller in scale than similar drills in May, but still backfired based on the reaction of the international community. National Security Bureau, Director General Tsai Ming-yen said yesterday. Right. You know what a bureau is, right? A bureau is, yeah, like we say, 局, right? Like in Taiwan, we have the 文化局, right? The Cultural Affairs Bureau, or the 建设局, you know, the Construction Bureau. Okay, so that's what bureau means. So this would be more like 国安, I guess 国安局 or something like that. Okay, so he's saying that these drills backfired based on, okay, or it means because of, we say based on or because of the reaction of the international community. Okay, any questions about this paragraph? Anything? Okay, well, let's go on then. It says, he said China's Joint Sword 2024B military drills showed that Beijing had a very different interpretation of President William Lai's Double 10 National Day speech than most other nations. Okay, so first of all, this is the name of their Yanxi. Now, I think you know what sword is, right? What's a sword? It's how do you say sword in Chinese? Yeah, and what does joint mean? Together, right? You can say we have a joint plan, we have a joint project. It means we're doing something together, we're working together. Why don't we say together, joint sword? Joint sword. Okay, now this is the word I want to focus on here. This is a good word. I think we've talked about this before, but what does the word interpret, you know, as a 动词, what does the word interpret, to interpret, mean? What does that mean? Well, it's like a little bit like the word translate, you know, 翻译, right? But I think interpret can be used in a more broader way. Okay, I'll give you an example. Interpret means to have what is your understanding of something when you see it or hear it? Okay, so it doesn't have to only be language, right? When we think of translation, like 翻译, right? It means you speak Chinese and I interpret into English, right? Or something like that. But if interpret can also be, if you see someone doing something, what are you thinking? What does that make you think? So, you know, for example, I use this example a lot. If you're walking down the road today and a stranger is coming towards you and he starts smiling at you, if you interpret that as being friendly, you think, oh, he's being very friendly, he must be very happy, then perhaps you will smile back at him, or you will feel good about him because he's smiling at you. But if he's smiling at you and you think, this is a very, you know, chi chi guai guai de ren, you know, this is a very strange, this guy looks weird, or why is he smiling at me? And I feel very suspicious, then I might react very differently. I might run away, or I might back away, or I might go another direction. So my interpretation of his smile means, what am I thinking? What's in my head when I see something? So interpretation can have that meaning too. Okay, so but we can use it for 翻译, right? So there is a job that's very popular, or I guess it's popular. You know, we have translation, but we also have translator, and we also have interpreter. And when you hear the word interpreter, usually it's someone who speaks. Okay, maybe he's speaking in Chinese and I speak in English. I interpret his speech. Okay, I know in the 联合国, United Nations, they have hundreds of interpreters because people are talking and they have the people that interpret whatever people are saying. Okay, so let me just write this other word because it's very similar. I think you all know this word is translate, okay, which is 翻译, and then of course we can turn that into a translation, okay, which is you know, what is the translation of this the story, okay? Or there's an English translation that becomes the, okay, yes? Interpretation, yeah. Just interpretation. Yeah. He's talking about there's people who are really good at this, and they can interpret at the same time someone is talking. So let's say I'm speaking, and then this other person's listening, and as I'm speaking, they're already immediately interpreting what I say into another language. That's called simultaneous interpretation. And boy, I think that's really difficult, very challenging. But anyhow, let's start with this word here as a 动词, interpret. Interpret. Remember, there's an R here. So one more time, interpret. And then interpretation. Interpretation. And then as a person, OR, interpreter. Interpreter. And then that word, translate. Translate. Translation. Translation. And then the job, the person, we say translator. Translator. Now, of course, nowadays, today, we don't need a person to translate things sometimes, right? You have a translator or translation program or app on your phone, right? I know many people now, they just have their phone and they'll scan something and it will automatically translate something into another language, okay? Or we use something like Google Translate to get a translation. But this word interpretation can be used in many good ways, right? For example, if you're discussing, let's say someone gives a 演讲, a speech, and afterwards you're talking to your friend about it, and you say, what is your interpretation of what he said? Okay, that does not mean how did you 翻译. It means what do you think his idea or his meaning was? I don't know if we use the word define. I would say, what's your take? How would you describe his speech? What do you think he was trying to say to us? Okay, so what was his meaning? Okay, but we're not talking about 翻译 there. So you can often use the word interpretation. You can say, even, if you looked at a painting, like you go to the 国美馆, right? And you're looking at a painting, you say, what is your interpretation of this painting? Okay, what do you think the artist is trying to say or express? So we can use that word in many different ways. So it's a good word to know. So basically it says here, Beijing had a very different interpretation of President Lai's speech. Okay, they saw it differently. They heard it differently. They thought he had a different meaning. Okay, so anyhow, let's go ahead and read this. He said China's Joint Sword 2024B military drills showed that Beijing had a very different interpretation. Interpretation of President William Lai's Double 10 National Day speech than most other nations. Right. Okay. Let's go on. It says, while most of the world saw Lai's address as a moderate, practical, as moderate, practical, and rational, the Chinese Communist Party saw it as provocative and used it as an excuse to launch Monday's exercises, Tsai said, on the sidelines of a legislative election. Now, of course, this is at the Li Fa Yuan. When we say, we've talked about this before, on the sidelines means on the side of, not during the meeting, but on the side of the meeting. So this, I've taught you this before, but this word comes from sports, 运动比赛, right? If you're watching a game, let's say there's a 足球比赛, and you're standing on the sideline, it means you're standing on the side. You're not in the game, you're watching the game, or you're standing by the side of the game. So if someone says something on the sidelines of a legislature session, like the Li Fa Yuan, it means they're not in the meeting, but they're maybe outside the meeting talking to somebody. So we say on the sidelines. Why don't we say together, on the sidelines? On the sidelines. And of course, the sideline, actual sideline is a 名词, is the line that goes around the, whether it's a, 足球场 or whatever, that line that is from the outside, the inside of the field. Okay, so anyhow, going back here, it says, while most of the world so lies address. And what's address? What's another word for address? Speech, right? 演讲. Now, of course, when we think of address, we often think as, what is your address? Where do you live in Taichung? What's your 地址? But here, address means speech, okay? So we can use this as a 名词 or a 动词. We can say he addressed the audience. It means he spoke to the audience. He gave a speech to the audience. Or he gave, as a 名词, he gave an address, okay? I think I've told you before, one of the most famous speeches in American history was given by Abraham Lincoln in 1863, I think. And it's called the Gettysburg Address, okay? And it was given after a very big battle in Pennsylvania, 宾州, and many soldiers died. And so he came to unveil a new cemetery for all the soldiers who had died. And he gave this, it was very funny because people expected him to give this really long speech. And his speech was super short. He wrote it on one page. And so now many American students, I think they still do this, have to memorize this speech. I had to memorize it when I was in high school, but it's a very short speech. So it only lasts about 1 minute, 2 minutes. But he got up, he gave this great speech. It was a very short speech, and it became very famous. So anyhow, it's called the Gettysburg Address. Yeah. I think basically he starts, everybody knows, he opens by saying, 77 years ago, our fathers brought forth this nation. Yeah. And conceived in liberty and dedicated the proposition that all men are created equal. See, I remember some of it. but basically what it means is that our country was founded on the idea that all men are created, men and women, of course, men and women are created equal. Everyone's equal. And we're committed to the idea of freedom and liberty, okay? And so basically he's saying that this ground where this battle was fought, where there was the American, the North and the South, where they fought this battle, was fought for that idea, to fight for freedom, for the ideas that our country was founded on, and that their sacrifice, the sacrifice of the soldiers who died for this cause, is not in vain. It will not be forgotten, and it will actually, it kind of creates I don't know how to say, a foundation, but it basically creates a memorial. It basically is something that helps us remember and commit ourselves to that goal. And this sacrifice will not be forgotten. Basically, yeah, it's saying that this is why these people died for this cause. It's a very, I don't know if I've never taught you this word. It's a very eloquent speech. You know the word eloquent? What does eloquent mean? Persuasive, but it means very, well, how would I describe this? If someone is very eloquent, it means they're very good at speaking. They're very good at talking. Their words are it might be very persuasive, right? They persuade people. But, when you hear someone give an eloquent speech or someone speaks very eloquently, it means they're very good with words, okay? I'm sure you can think of some people who are very good, they're very eloquent speakers, okay? For example, if you look at American presidents, some American presidents are very eloquent and some are not. I think probably one of the most eloquent presidents we've had in recent years is probably Obama, yeah. Barack Obama is a very eloquent speaker. He's very good at talking. His words are very, he uses words very well. So when people hear him speak, they're like, wow, okay. So that's what eloquent means. So the Gettysburg Address is a very eloquent speech, although it's very short. Let me just write this for you. You can go look it up. It's a very famous speech. Now, Gettysburg is a place. It's a small town in central southern Pennsylvania where this battle was fought. We call it the Battle of Gettysburg. It's very close to my father's hometown. I've been there many times, and they have the whole battlefield there. You can go and look at it. And it's a very small town. But anyhow, it's called the Gettysburg Address, or we could say Gettysburg Speech. But yeah, and it's very interesting because Lincoln wrote it, I believe, if I remember correctly, he wrote it on the back of an envelope, Xinfeng, on the way there. Like he was in the train going there, and he was thinking about what he was going to say, and he just wrote it on the back of an envelope. And then when he got there, they're all waiting for this very long speech because I think, how people are. They like to give politicians, they love to speak a long time, right? So they thought, oh, he's going to speak for, 30 minutes or 45 minutes. And he got up there and he read the speech, and it was only like 1 or 2 minutes. And that was it. So anyhow, but yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think if you look at Abraham Lincoln, what he said, he was a very eloquent speaker. He was very good at speaking, very good with words. So anyhow, let's say this word together, eloquent. Eloquent. So this can be a 形容词, or you can use it as a 副词. You can say he spoke very eloquently. Okay? So why don't we say together, eloquently. Eloquently. Yeah. So anyhow, getting back to our story here, it says, most of the world saw Li's address, his speech, as moderate, practical, and rational. So what does moderate mean? It means not too extreme. Okay? So what's the opposite of moderate? Actually, I just gave you one. Not so much. Extreme, or I'll give you a second word. Starts with an R. Radical, yes. Okay. So I'll give you an example. If we talk about politics, 政治, moderate would be towards the middle, and radical would be out on either side, far out on the left or the right. Okay, or radical or extreme. So you just say someone's extreme right wing or extreme left wing. They 靠左边 or 右边 or whatever. But moderate means more towards the middle. You're not out on the sides, extremes. So someone's very moderate. So moderate can also be used in other ways. For example, most doctors say it's good to eat moderately, right? When we say to eat moderately, it means don't overeat. Okay. Now, if you eat, every time you eat until you're so full you can't move. You're really super full. Then you're not eating moderately. I know in Japan they have an idea. They say you should eat until you feel 70% full, and that's good. Unfortunately, Americans don't usually do that. I think Americans eat until I shouldn't say not all Americans, but many Americans eat until they feel like 150% full. But yeah, they say eating moderately, or eating in actually we could say in moderation, which would be a means moderation, that means not to be too extreme, not to go too far, not to overdo it. Okay? Yeah. Eating sparingly just means no. It just means you don't eat much. Yeah, you just eat a little bit. Yeah. But moderation just means don't overdo it. Okay? So why don't we say together moderate. Moderate. Moderation. Moderation. And then as a 副词, moderately. Moderately. There's an expression sometimes you hear people say, they say everything in moderation. What that means is that everything in your life, you should not go too far, overdo it. You're eating, everything you do should be balanced. Shouldn't be too much this way or too much that way. Not too much, not too little. Do everything in moderation. Okay, some people believe that. Okay, so moderate, practical. What's practical mean? What would be another similar word to practical? If you are very practical, or something idea is very practical, what does down to earth? We could say it's very, maybe some way you might say it's very useful. It's something you can easily do. Okay, so something is practical. So let's say somebody gives you a 礼物 for your birthday, a present, and you look at this item and it's very practical, that means that it's something you can use, right? I'm sure you've gotten gifts you cannot use, right? You get it and you're like, what do I do with this, right? I don't know how to use this. It's not practical. But if someone gives you a very practical gift, I'll give you an example. One year, my sister and my niece and nephew gave me a baseball cap, right? And I thought, when I first got it, I thought, I don't know, this seems kind of simple. But I wore that baseball cap over and over and over and over again until it wore out, right? So it was a very practical gift. I actually ended up wearing it a lot. So it was a practical gift. It was a useful gift. What? Well, cash, yeah, I guess that's practical. You can use it, yeah. Yeah, that would be, I guess, the most practical gift. But yeah, so something is practical. It's something you can put into action. He used the word that I think it's similar kind of in a way too, but a slightly different idea. We said, down to earth, okay? Down to earth, it means it's not like super fancy. It's something out of this world. It's nothing crazy. It's down to earth. It's simple. It's practical. It's useful. Something you can actually use. Okay. Now, down to earth can also mean somebody describe a person, right? He's a very down to earth person. It means he doesn't have fancy ideas. He's just very normal. Okay. So why don't we say that word together? Practical. Practical. Down to earth. Down to earth. Okay, and then the last word here, rational. What does rational mean? Sensible, right? It means you thinking clearly. It's a clear idea. It's not a crazy idea. If someone is crazy or they have a strange or unusual ideas, but it's something that makes sense. It's reasonable, okay? Sensible, it's rational, okay? So if someone says, you should think more rationally, it means you should think in a more normal way. Don't get too out of control. So why don't we say together, rational. Rational. And then this other word here, sensible. Sensible. Right. So you might say, well, that's a very sensible idea. That makes sense. That's a good idea. Okay. So anyhow, these are the words they describe. Although most of the world saw his address in this way, the Chinese Communist Party saw it as provocative. Now, we've looked at this word many times before. Provocative comes from the word to what? Provoke. Provoke. To provoke means what? To trigger something, to cause something to happen, right? Now, you can provoke many things. You can provoke anger. You can provoke happiness. You can provoke desire. You can provoke, action or anger, anything. So if something is provocative, then it means that it provoked a reaction, okay? So the Chinese Communist Party thought that his speech was provocative. It was challenging them. It was provoking something from them. Does everybody understand that? Okay. So why don't we start with the 动词, to provoke. To provoke. And then a 形容词, provocative. Provocative. Okay. So they saw it as provocative, and they used this speech as an excuse. Excuse, of course, means 借口, right? As an excuse to launch, to trigger, to begin Monday's exercises. Okay. Any questions about this? Some good words, yeah. Yeah, very much so. Now, in reality, when you say someone is dressed in a provocative way, usually what it means is they're dressed in a sexually provocative way, okay? So it means, if you typically, that expression tends to get used more with women than men. But yeah, if a woman was wearing a very small bikini or something, some might say, well, that's very provocative, right? It's provoking ideas. Okay. So anyhow, let's read this. While most of the world, let's say it again. While most of the world saw Lai's address as moderate, practical, and rational, the Chinese Communist Party Let's say it again. Chinese Communist Party saw it as provocative. Provocative. And used it as an excuse to launch Monday's exercises. Tsai said on the sidelines of a legislative session. Right. Okay. That's a photo caption. So here he says the Chinese Communists' military exercise had created a negative effect in that it made the international community more supportive of Taiwan, Tsai said. So it says here, here's the word negative effect, okay? So we can have a positive effect or we can have a negative effect. So it has created a negative effect in that. And we say in that it means that because, okay, in that because it made. So this word in that, it's when this is not as common. We usually just say because, but we can also say in that, okay? You could say, I'm very unhappy by his, I'm really unhappy with his plan in that it makes me do more work, okay? Because it makes me do more work. So we could say, I'm unhappy with his plan in that it makes me do more work. I mean, because it makes me do more work. So that word in that means because. So a negative effect in that it made the international community more supportive, okay, to give more support of Taiwan. I think everybody understands that. Okay, so let's read this. The Chinese Communist military exercise has created a negative effect. In that it made the international community more supportive of Taiwan, Tsai said. Okay, I want to add something here. Many people, or not just English learners, but affect, there's a very similar word, affect. Okay? A-F-F-E-C-T. What's the difference between these two words? Very similar. Yeah. So to affect something is a 动词, right? You can say, I was affected by his action, or it really affected me a lot. Then we use the A. It affected me, okay? But if we say, what are the effects of this plan? Then we use the E, okay? So very similar. And they're pronounced effect. They're pronounced almost the same. Effect, yeah. So yeah, anyhow, just want to make sure you know that. Yeah. Okay, so let's go on. It says here, citing the U.S. reaction, Tsai said the U.S. Department of Defense issued a statement which he described as extremely rare and strong-worded in denouncing the latest People's Liberation Army drills. Okay, so when he says citing the U.S. reaction, it means he's noting what the U.S. did. What was their reaction? When you cite something, it means you refer to something. So, if you have to write a report for school, you have to cite the source of your information. Like I say, well, this number, this came from there, or this came from there. Okay, I cite my sources. Where did it come from? Where did that information come from? So here he citing the U.S. reaction. Tsai said the U.S. Department of Defense, would be like the 国防部, released a statement which Tsai described as extremely rare and strong-worded. Rare means what? R-A-R-E. What does that mean? It doesn't happen often, right? So we could say typhoons in Taichung are extremely rare, right? Thankfully. Yeah, so, but there's, many things that could be rare, right? Sometimes I get, when I'm getting money I go to the 7-Eleven or I go shopping, and the clerk gives me my change, and they give me, I mean, this is very rare, especially now, and I get a 200 NT bill, okay? 200块钱, a green one, right? That's very rare. Whenever I get one of those, I keep it. So I have many 200 NT bills at home because I'm like, I never see those bills. I have one or two 2,000 NT bills too, right? They're very rare. I still remember one time I went to 7-Eleven and I tried to pay with a 2,000 and the clerk wouldn't take it. They were like, I was like, what do you mean? This is real money, right? It's not 假的, but they wouldn't take it. So I don't know. Are there a lot of fake 2,000 NT bills? I don't know. It was very strange. They wouldn't take it from me. But I thought, okay, 没有关系. It's very rare. I'll keep it. So, yeah. Yeah. What? They do, but it's very, very rare. And it's not used. What? Maybe. But I think that bill is almost never, ever used in real payments. Yeah, it's extremely rare. And I don't even think they print it anymore. I don't think that they haven't printed those bills. So he's asking about a U.S. 500块 bill. Now, most people know there's a 100块 bill. Of course, that's very common. But a 500块, a $100, $500 bill is very rare. And actually, if you look it up, there's actually a $1,000 bill and a $10,000 bill. But those are not used for normal payments. Those are only used for like bank-to-bank payments. Like one bank is paying another bank. So yeah, if you ever get a $500 bill, you should keep it, or maybe it's fake. Yeah. So just be careful. It's real. Okay, that's good to know. You know, many years ago, I was in Hong Kong, and somebody paid me with a U.S. $100 bill. And it was not the newer ones. It was the old one, the original one. And I decided to keep it because I thought this bill is not very common, the old bill. But after I held it for about 5 years, 10 years, I looked at it again, and it was starting to fade. So I thought, oh, this is fake. But that's okay. I thought it's kind of, I have a fake $100 bill now. So I know those were very common at one point. So anyhow, yeah, rare. Now, there's another meaning for rare. I think some of you like to go out to eat. What is a rare steak? Rare means what? Like almost like 生的, right? It's not cooked, okay? So if you go to a steakhouse and they say, how would you like your steak? And you say, I want my steak rare. That means that it's barely cooked. It's still red, on the inside. Maybe there's a little bit of blood in there. It's still a little bit. Now, if you say, I want my steak medium rare, then it's cooked a little bit more, and maybe it's pink, not red. And of course, then we have well done and, whatever. So, yeah, but I don't hear that term a lot. But you say blue. Yeah. That's a very unusual term. I wasn't actually familiar with that until recently. But yeah, that is another cooking style. But yeah, rare is a very common, yeah. There's certain things you can eat rare, and there's other things you should not eat rare. Like chicken, I don't think you should eat rare. You should cook chicken very well because you might get sick if you don't cook it properly. Okay, so here's this extremely rare, very rare, and strong worded. So if something is strongly, we could also say strongly with an ly. Strongly worded, what does that mean? It uses strong language, okay? Not bad words, but very just strong, firm language. Okay, so it says this U.S. Department of Defense issued a statement which Tsai described as extremely rare, they don't say this often, and very strong worded in denouncing the latest People's Liberation Army drills. Now, this is a good word. I don't know if we've learned it before, but what does to denounce mean? To what? It's a little bit like the word criticize, peeping, but it's stronger. It's what? Kind of like reprimand. Yeah, reprimand. Let me write that word down. To reprimand. It might actually, in a way, it's kind of even stronger than reprimand. Reprimand is like a little bit like the word to scold, right? Now, scold doesn't sound very serious, but reprimand sounds a little bit more serious. But yeah, if you when you were a child, if you did something wrong or you disobeyed your parents might reprimand you. They might say, "Don't do that. You should never do that." Right? That's wrong. That's called to reprimand somebody, okay, or to scold somebody. But to denounce is really to say that something or someone is evil. It's wrong. It's bad. Okay. Now you can denounce a person. You can say he's evil, or he's criminal, or he's坏人, or you can denounce an idea or a plan. You can say that's a completely wrong. It's bad. It's no good. So to denounce has that stronger feeling to it. It's like, this is really, Now, if your parents reprimand you, they might say, don't do that, or that's something you should not do. But they're not saying you are bad or you're evil, right? They're just saying what you're doing is not good. If your parents denounced you, that would be pretty serious. I mean, that would be probably something a parent should not do, right? I'll give you an example. This word got used a lot, during the 文化革命 in China, right? Cultural revolution. People would denounce other people. They would say that person is an enemy of China, right? And then they would get taken away or something would happen to them. So they would denounce their neighbors. Sometimes they would even denounce their parents. They would say, my parents are not against the, 共产党, and then, they would, so anyhow, that you can see how serious that is to denounce somebody. Okay? So why don't we say together, denouncing. Denouncing. I'll just give you the word, this isn't a word we see too often, but it is the 名词 verb. The verb. We say denunciation. It's with an N-U-N. Okay, so why don't we say it to denunciation? Denunciation. Okay, yeah, so that's the 名词 version of that. So, okay, so let's read this again together. Citing the U.S. reaction, Tsai said the U.S. Department of Defense issued a statement which he described as extremely rare and strong-worded in denouncing the latest People's Liberation Army drills. Let's say that again. People's Liberation Army. Okay. Liberation means what? What does that mean? Liberation. To free, right? To liberate. Okay. If you liberate someone, you free them. Liberate. With an E here. Liberate. So liberate, if you look at the word, it's very similar to another word, which is what? Liberty. Okay? What is liberty? Yeah, so it'd be like 自由, right? Yeah. Like the, in Taiwan we have the what? 自由时报. It's a Liberty Times, right? That's the English name of, or death. Okay? No, that's a very famous phrase from American history. A guy named Patrick Henry said, "Give me liberty or give me death." Oops. Okay, so he gave a speech, or I don't know if it was a speech, but he said this, and he said, "Give me liberty or give me death." So he was an early American during the American革命, and his name was, let me just write it for you, a little history lesson. His name was Patrick Henry. Okay, and he was part of that American Revolution against the British. Okay, so he said, "Give me liberty or give me death." So it means that he either you give me freedom, or I'll die for it, or I'll die. Yeah. No, he isn't really considered a founding father, but he was an early promoter of American freedom or independence, 独立. So he was very famous for giving speeches, but he wouldn't be considered a founding father because he wasn't really part of that group of men that signed the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence, and So anyhow, but he's very well known. Yeah. Okay. So let's go on. Okay. I want to add something here. When I was thinking of this, give me liberty, give me death. There's a movie that they've been showing on HBO. I mean, it's been around. It actually got some Academy Awards, I think. But every time I see it's about Winston Churchill, and it's called Darkest Hour. I don't know if you've seen this movie. Very good movie. It came out about, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. But it's called Darkest Hour. Okay, and it's about the England during the Battle of Britain, when the Germans were bombing England, and France and Belgium had fallen to the Germans, and England was under threat of invasion, okay, from the Germans. And Winston Churchill, Churchill, right? You know who I'm talking about. Okay, he's under a lot of pressure, so he's not quite sure, if he should negotiate with the Germans, because in his own party, there are people telling him you should negotiate for peace with the Germans, with Hitler, because, if you don't, we're going to be invaded. We're going to be taken over. It's finished. France has fallen, Belgium's fallen, Netherlands has fallen. We have to negotiate because we're finished. And so he's not quite sure what he should do. He's under a lot of pressure. But in the end, he gives this great speech, which is very famous, and you can look it up. But and I think maybe you've heard this speech before, because he says, and I don't remember the exact words, but it's kind of like, we will fight them on the beaches. What does he say? We'll fight them in the fields. We'll fight them in the, anyhow, he goes on and he says, we'll never give up. We'll never surrender. Whenever I see that speech, I think of Taiwan. Seriously. So yeah, I think, well, that's a great speech for Taiwan, because I just think it's a very interesting comparison sometimes between this idea of defending your freedom and your independence and all those things. So anyhow, that's when we look at this kind of article. If you ever get a chance to watch the movie, it's called Darkest Hour. And the acting is very good. Oops, Dark Kiss. That's a T. They've been showing it, sometimes they'll show it on HBO, and they'll show it on other channels. But darkest, means, dark means the most, the darkest hour means the darkest time, darkest period. But a very good movie. Yeah, so. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, and to be honest, I don't know if that part actually happened, but it's a great scene because the king, King Edward, Edward, yeah, the king, it shows the interaction between the king and Churchill, but the king advises Churchill. He says, if you don't know what to do, go talk to the people and see what they say. Ordinary people, not parliament or whatever. So he's riding the train, the 捷运, the subway, the London Tube, and he has a conversation with ordinary, 老百姓. And he asks them, he says, what should we do? And of course they say, we need to fight. But yeah, so anyhow, it's a good movie. So anyhow, let's go on. It says here, the Pentagon statement said the PLA's military operation was irresponsible, disproportionate, and destabilizing. So it's interesting because we just had three other words here, right? We had moderate, rational, and Okay, but here we have irresponsible, disproportionate, and destabilizing. Okay, now this comes from the 美国国防部. Okay, so first of all, what's irresponsible mean? Good word. If someone is irresponsible, what does that mean? Yeah. So what would be an irresponsible action? If you went outside today and you acted in an irresponsible way, what would be a good example of that? Okay, so if you litter, you 丢垃圾 on the ground, right? Or if you got in your motorcycle or your car and you just drove, 传红灯, or whatever, you ran through the red light, that would be irresponsible, right? It'd be dangerous. It could hurt yourself and hurt other people. So anything where you're not taking responsibility, you're not showing responsibility. It could be for yourself, for your family, for the country, for society, whatever. So why don't we say together, irresponsible. Irresponsible. Okay, hear this word again. We've talked about this, but let's read it again. Disproportionate. Disproportionate. And then finally, we have this third word, and I think you can guess what this word means, but what does destabilizing mean? What does that mean? What word do you see in the middle there? Stable, right? So stable means what? 稳定, right? Steady, okay? So if something is destabilizing, what does that mean? Yeah, it makes it unstable, right? It upsets things, okay? It creates 乱, like chaos, okay? So if someone is doing something or saying something that's destabilizing, it means it upsets or creates instability in the country or the economy or whatever. Actually, the word 名词 that we use for that is instability. Okay, so of course this word we can change this to a B-I-L, stability, right? We can say stability. So, yeah, I think S-T-A-B-I-L-I-T-Y. Stability is a 名词, right? Instability is the opposite. And then, of course, destabilizing is to make something unstable. Yes? It just means to create chaos. Yeah, 乱, okay? Yeah, it means to say something or do something that is not creates chaos. So, of course, we can say something is unstable, right? Okay? Could be this table is unstable. It could be this building is, hopefully not, but this building is unstable. But yeah, and then as a means, so we say instability, stable, unstable, stability, instability. Okay, so let's read these words together. Stable, stable, stability, stability, unstable, unstable, instability, instability. Okay, and then we have similar. Yeah, and then we have this word, destabilizing. Destabilizing. Right, so they're all related to each other. I think you can, of course, we could say that someone says something and it is very stabilizing, right? You could say his words were very stabilizing. It means it made everybody more stable. Okay, it made them feel more 稳定, more secure. Okay, so let's read this together. The Pentagon statement said. Okay, let's say it again. The Pentagon statement said the PLA's military operation. Okay, military operation was irresponsible, disproportionate, and destabilizing. Destabilizing. Right. Okay. So then it goes, Tsai told lawmakers that the PLA also engaged in large-scale cognitive warfare by spreading false information online during Monday's drills. Okay, so of course lawmakers like Liwei, right, like a legislator. So he told them PLA also engaged, and of course engaged means to carry out, right? If you engage in a conversation or you engage in a plan, or it means you're involved with something, you carried it out, you did it. Okay, so they engaged in large scale, big cognitive warfare. Now this word cognitive is a great word. What does this mean? What cognitive mean? Means thinking, mind, in your mind, okay? So if you say he has great cognitive power, or he is using his cognitive power, what does that basically mean? What's another way of saying it? His what? His brain power, okay? So cognitive is anything relating to your brain, okay? Now, often we say thinking. Another word for thinking is the word cognition. Thinking, because that takes place in your brain, okay? So cognitive means anything to do with your brain. So cognitive power is brain power. So you can say he has great, like some of my friends, they like to do puzzles. And the reason they do puzzles is they say it increases their cognitive power, right? Do you know what a crossword puzzle is? Okay. I have friends, they do the crossword puzzle every single day in the newspaper because they think it helps. I agree. I think it probably helps their cognitive power. It keeps their brain sharp. Okay. So anyhow, why don't we say it together? Cognitive. Cognitive. Cognition. Cognition. Okay, so cognitive warfare, it doesn't mean, that sounds kind of weird, brain warfare. But what does that mean, basically? Yeah, it kind of means we're trying to change people's thinking. We're actually fighting against people's ideas or thinking. We're trying to change their ideas. And so cognitive warfare would be, there's another word that we often use that's similar to this. We say, psychological warfare. Okay. During any war, psychological warfare can be very, very important, because if you can make the enemy surrender without fighting, that's even better, right? Then you don't have to fight them. You convince them that there's no purpose in fighting. They should just give up, 放弃. Okay, 算了. Okay, so that's a kind of psychological, whoops, I spelled this wrong. Sorry. Yeah, there's a Y. There, sorry. Psychological. Okay, so why don't we say together, psychological. Psychological warfare. Okay, so they said the PLA they were involved in large-scale psychological or cognitive warfare by what? What did they do? Spreading false information online during Monday's drills, okay? Seems like everyone is good at this now, I know Russia is very good at it. China is very good at it. They spread a lot of information. Right now, this is a big threat during the U.S. presidential election, 总统选举, right? People are spreading online information, and sometimes it's false. And not just inside America. Some of that comes from outside America, like Russia or China, and they're trying to influence or change the result of the American presidential election. So yeah, that's not good. Okay, let's read this together. Tsai told lawmakers that the PLA also engaged in large-scale cognitive warfare by spreading false information online during Monday's drills. Okay. It says here, one example was a post on PTT, the nation's largest online bulletin board system, claiming that a liquefied natural gas tanker was unable to dock at Taichung Harbor after being stopped by Chinese warships, he said. Okay, so this is an example of cognitive warfare. Does everybody know what a bulletin board is? Okay, this is an online bulletin board, but I know that there's real bulletin boards. I mean, it's a board, and what do you put on there? You put announcements, or, you know, I want to sell my car, or I want to buy something, and you just post announcements on the bulletin board. That's called a bulletin board. I know that many schools and companies will have a bulletin board, a real bulletin board, but here this is an online bulletin board. So why don't we say together, bulletin board. Bulletin board. And a bulletin is like an announcement. It's another way of saying an announcement. I guess we could say an announcement board. Okay, so this is an online bulletin board, and this post claimed that a liquefied natural gas tanker. Now, first of all, a tanker is a what? A big ship, okay? And usually those ships carry oil, right? 石油. But they also can carry what we call LNG. And what is LNG? LNG is, what is that? How do you say it in Chinese? Yeah. So it's also very, I don't know if you've seen these LNG tankers. They have these huge balls, you know, like these giant containers on the top of the ship, and they store this LNG gas. Well, we just say LNG, but it means liquefied natural gas, okay? So why don't we say together, liquefied natural gas. And you can see when we say liquefy, what does that actually mean? Now or gas. Now it's liquid, okay? So liquid means what? Liquid means like water, right? Fluid. Yeah. I guess fluid would be another word for liquid. Okay, like water, like coffee, like gasoline. They're all liquids, right? So liquefy means to turn into a liquid. It's been made into a liquid. Previously, maybe it was a gas, and now it's a liquid. Okay? So why don't we say it one more time? Liquefied. Liquefied. Liquid. Liquid. Fluid. Fluid. Right. So, you know, sometimes you're driving your car and you stop, you drive your car out and you notice there's all this fluid under your car, and you're like, uh-oh, something's leaking, right? There's a problem, you know, some sort of 毛病 with the car. Okay, so yeah. So anyhow, they claim that a LNG, liquefied natural gas tanker, was unable to dock. Now, of course, when we say dock, what does that basically mean? Yeah, to stop in the harbor, okay? Now, dock is a 名词. As a 名词, it's the place where the ships park, basically. You know, when you park a ship. Of course, we don't say to park a ship. We say to dock a ship, okay? We park a car, but we dock a ship. So the dock is that actual, what is that, 码头, right? Where you stop the ship. But dock can also be used as a, like here, as a 动词. He docked the ship in Taichung. Or, you know, I parked the car in front of my house. I docked the ship in the harbor. Okay, that's how the way we use it. So why don't we say together, dock? Dock. Now, he used a word that's very, actually the same word. It's just another way of saying it. We say to moor. M-O-O-R. Same idea. To dock a ship, to moor a ship means to park it. That's, yeah. Okay, so, yeah. Okay, so let's go ahead and read this. One example was a post on PTT. PTT, the nation's largest online bulletin board system. Let's say that last part. Bulletin board system. Claiming that a liquefied natural gas tanker again, liquefied natural gas tanker was unable to dock at Taichung Harbor after being stopped by Chinese warships. Warships, he said. Right. A warship would be any 海军, ship. Yeah, it could be any. Yeah, there's many different kinds of warships. Okay. Okay. So let's read this. Yeah, we'll read a couple more paragraphs. It says here, in an attempt to spread fear among Taiwanese, the Post warned that once tankers were unable to enter Taiwan, Taiwan could face an energy shortage, Tsai said, adding that state-run CPC Corporation, or Corp, that Taiwan immediately denounced the Post as a rumor. Okay, so this fake post was an attempt, it was an effort, it was a way to spread fear among Taiwanese. So it warned that once tankers were unable to enter Taiwan, Taiwan could face an energy shortage, this energy. And then CPC is Zhongyou, I think Zhongyou, China Petroleum Company. Taiwan, adding that state-run CPC Corporation Taiwan. Okay, I guess this is the name of the company. It's CPC Corp Taiwan. I think this Taiwan must be part of the name. Immediately denounced the Post as a rumor. So here's this word denounce. So when you denounce, here they're not denouncing a person, they're actually denouncing a message. They're saying that message is only a rumor. It's fake, 假的. It's not real. So they're denouncing that post, that message, as a rumor. What's a rumor? Yeah, what is in Chinese? It's what 传说, right? Yeah, it's not real. Well, it's probably not real, right? So if you say, there's a rumor about him, I hear he's quitting his job, or there's a rumor about her, she's getting divorced, So there, we say rumor, okay? So why don't we say together, rumor. Rumor. Okay, so let's read this together. In an attempt to spread fear, among Taiwanese, the Post warned that once tankers were unable to enter Taiwan, Taiwan could face an energy shortage. Tsai said. Adding that state-run CPC Corp Taiwan immediately denounced the Post as a rumor. Okay. Now we're going to see in the next paragraph a word that's very similar to this word. You'll see what I mean. Okay. So it says here, meanwhile, China's Taiwan Affairs Office yesterday said that China would never commit to renouncing the use of force against Taiwan. Okay, so this is from the China side. Now, if you renounce something, well, it sounds very similar to denounce, but what does renounce mean? Does anyone know? Yes, it's to give up something, okay? So let me give you an example. You can say he renounced drinking alcohol, okay? He said, I'm never going to drink 喝酒 anymore. I'm going to stop drinking alcohol, Or he renounced, I will say, sometimes people renounce their religion, okay? Maybe before they were 信什么教, and then they renounce it. They say, you know what, I'm quitting. I don't believe that anymore. So they renounce their religion, okay? So there's a difference. Denounce means to say, okay, that's bad, that's evil, that's wrong, that's 假的, that's fake. But renounce means to give up, to go away from, to say I'm not doing that anymore. So, yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, no, but it does make sense because you can say that's not real, that's fake, it's wrong, It's evil, yeah. So you could renounce it as a rumor. But, denounce it as a rumor. But here to renounce this means, it says China would never commit to renouncing the use of force against Taiwan. So basically, what does this mean? It means that China will never give up the option of using force against Taiwan. Now, if China renounced the use of force against Taiwan, that means that they would say, okay, we're never going to use force against Taiwan. We only use peace to deal with Taiwan. We will never use force. But here he says we will never renounce that. We will never give up that idea or that option, that 选择 to use against Taiwan. Okay? So why don't we say together, renounce. Renounce. Yeah. So again, denounce and renounce sound very similar, but they have different ideas behind them. Okay? So let's read this together. Meanwhile, China's Taiwan Affairs Office yesterday said that China would never commit to renouncing the use of force against Taiwan. Okay, yeah. It means we would never promise, yeah. So we will never commit to, we will never promise to, or say we will renounce the use of force against Taiwan. You're saying the word commit to. Proposition, commit to. Commit to would be a verb. I mean, they would not commit to renouncing. So this you're saying this is a propositional phrase here. Yeah, to renouncing the use of force against Taiwan. Yeah. What are you going to commit? You would never commit to what? To renouncing the use of force against Taiwan. So, yeah, I think that's what you mean, right? This is a propositional phrase. Yeah. Oh, very complicated. 很复杂. Yeah. I should learn that word. Yeah. It brings back bad memories of English class. Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. I'll read one more paragraph and then we'll go to a different story. Okay. So this is still China talking. It says here, we are willing to strive for the prospect of peaceful reunification with the utmost sincerity and endeavor. But we will never commit ourselves to renouncing the use of force. TAO spokesman Chen Binhua told a regular news conference in Beijing. Okay, so he says, we're willing to strive for. What's strive for mean? Yeah, work hard for something. Strive means the idea you're working hard. You know, you can say, I really strive hard to be a good person. Or I strive hard to treat everybody with respect. Okay, it means I work hard. So why don't we say together, strive. Strive. Okay, so we're willing to strive for what? For the prospect of peaceful reunification. Now, prospect is an interesting word. How would you describe the word prospect? The prospect means the possibility of, kind of like the idea of, but more like I'll give you an example. If you say, what are his prospects for success? It means, what are his chances for success? Okay? If you say a prospective partner, it means a possible partner. Okay? Okay, I'll give you an example. This is one you'll all be familiar with. You might say, this bachelor, this guy, has many marriage prospects. It means he has many options or many choices to get married. There's many women that he could marry. Okay? So you might say he has many good prospects for a wife or marriage. Okay? So it means there's many chances or possibilities, okay? So the prospect of a peaceful reunification means the possibility, the chance of a peaceful reunification. So I'll just write the word possibility, okay? Maybe you could say opportunity too, okay? The possibility, the opportunity, the chance, okay, of peaceful reunification, okay? So does everybody understand that? Okay, I think, yeah. So we're willing to work for that possibility of peaceful reunification, okay? Of course, reunification, I think you all know that word. Many people find this word very controversial because they say there is no there's only unification. It's not like, Taiwan was part of the PRC before, right? So anyhow, let's say together, reunification. Reunification. Okay. With utmost sincerity. Okay, do you know the word sincerity, right? If someone is a very sincere, with an R-E, sincere person, right? So this becomes a 名词. So why don't we say together, sincere. Sincere. Sincerity. Sincerity. Many people, when they sign their letters at the end, they write sincerely, and then they sign their name, right? So that means sincerely, Doug. That's how they end their letter. Okay. But what does utmost mean? This word here. The highest, the most. Okay. If you say, I will do my utmost to succeed, or I will do my utmost to help you out, it means I will do my best. I will do my most, the most that I can do, my utmost. Okay. So this is a good word to know. It's funny, I don't think we've ever talked about this before, but if you say utmost sincerity, it means with the most sincerity that I can give you or that I have. Okay? So why don't we say together, utmost. Utmost. Okay. With the utmost sincerity and endeavor. Okay. Endeavor, what would be another word for endeavor? Effort. Yeah, that's the word I was thinking about. Your effort. E-F-F-O-R-T. Effort. My endeavor. Okay. You can say he endeavors to be successful. It means he's working hard to be successful. But if you use this as a 名词, as a noun, you can say his endeavors will be his efforts, his work, his work or his efforts, endeavor. So why don't we say together, endeavor. Endeavor. Okay. But he says we will never commit ourselves to renouncing the use of force. Okay, so he's saying, okay, yeah, we'll do our best to use peace for reunification. We're going to be very sincere, but we're not going to give up force against Taiwan. Okay. Okay, so let's read this together. We are willing to strive for the prospect of peaceful reunification with the utmost sincerity. Let's say it again. Utmost sincerity and endeavor. Endeavor. But we will never commit ourselves to renouncing the use of force. Let's say this word one more time. Renouncing. Right. TAO spokesman Chen Binhua told a regular news conference in Beijing. Okay, that's like a 记者会. Yeah, like a, okay. Okay, any questions about this before we go on to one more article? Anything? To strive, he strove. S-T-R-O-V. He strived to be, but if he strove to be, I think strove is the better word. But I could be wrong. But I definitely know strove is a 过去式 of strive. He strove. Yeah, a little bit. It's funny. There's all these tricky words where it's. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions about this? You're saying the one that just happened or a possibility in the future? I think a blockade is very difficult to achieve successfully. I know China has a big navy, but I think to be successfully block a place, you really, I think is very, very, very difficult. Even there's many other cases around the world where countries have tried to blockade other countries, and it's very challenging. So yeah, I think if China wanted to give Taiwan trouble, it would be more like we say a quarantine. You know what a quarantine is? And during the 疫情, everyone had to 隔离, right? We call that a quarantine. But quarantine can be also used another way. It means that instead of blocking an island, you try to stop, you try to check, 检查 other ships that are coming into Taiwan. Like you stop them and say, okay, what's on your ship? And, you do an inspection, right? And you just give them a lot of mafan, you give them a lot of trouble coming in and out of Taiwan. I think that's perhaps more realistic for them to try, just to give more pressure. But a true blockade would be very, very difficult. And to be honest, I don't think that the U.S. and Japan, other countries would just say, okay, you just do have a blockade. I think there would be some action taken there. I'll give you an example. During many, many, many years ago, some of you remember this, Iran tried to block the Gulf of the Persian Gulf. And so what happened then was, because there are many oil tankers that come in and out of the Gulf, of course, the world relies on that oil. So what the U.S. did was the U.S. Navy started to actually escort or go with tankers in and out of that strait just to make sure that was open. So the U.S. Navy basically to break the blockade, so that they of course, unless Iran wanted to go to war with the U.S., which they didn't, they just had to let the tankers go through. So to me, I see that as a possible strategy to break any kind of blockade. Is you just say, okay, we're going to send our Navy, Haijun, with those ships, and you have two choices. Do you want to go to war, or do you want to just give up? So anyhow, I'm not that worried about it. So. Mm-hmm. 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 Hmm. Bashi channel. Yeah. Yeah, there's something to keep in mind here. A blockade of Taiwan, if China were to try it, doesn't just hurt Taiwan, right? Who does it hurt? Japan? South Korea? But here's the funny thing. It hurts China, right? Because if you're blocking ships freely from traveling up and down the Taiwan Haixia, who depends on the Taiwan Strait as well? China. All their ports are there, right? They're major ports. So if there's a problem in the Taiwan Strait, China gets hurt as badly or worse than Taiwan, because now you have all those ships wanting to go to Shanghai or Ningbo or wherever, and they're impacted too, right? So I think that, it's almost like, what do we say? What's the word we learned earlier today? Backfire, right? You can try to blockade Taiwan, but it often, I think that kind of action can really backfire on China, because how long are you going to do that for? What? 2 months? 6 months? What? Think about what happens to China's economy during that time, And so I think that, and like you just said, China itself is easily blockaded. All their oil comes from where? Through the strait near Malaysia, through the Strait of Malacca, and up and down that area. So China can be blockaded very easily. So I think it's very easy for a country like China to show they're unhappy, right? But I think one of the best statements I heard about this Yanxi was someone said it's 75% political and 25% military, which means Why are they doing this? Is it because they think it's going to convince Taiwanese that they want to support reunification with China? I think it's really the CCP's effort to look strong, to look tough. So if somebody does something that makes me unhappy, if I don't do anything, then I look weak, right? So I have to do something, right? Especially in front of my own people, right? The Chinese people, they think, well, Xi Jinping, you're a strong guy, right? So I have to do something to show the Chinese people that, hey, look, I'm tough, right? I'm tough towards Taiwan. I won't just let them become, Du Li or whatever. So I do think a lot of what China does is not only aimed at Taiwan, but it's actually aimed at their own people to make themselves look tough. Because keep in mind, right now, China's economy is not doing very well, right? It's actually doing terrible. So if you're a Chinese person, you think, well, why should I support them? What good are they doing for me? Well, now the Gongchandang says, well, hey, we're tough, right? We're for China. We're protecting China, right? So I think a lot of what this kind of stuff is that thing. So I mean, again, I could be wrong, but but I think that's my interpretation. Okay, there's the word we use. That's my interpretation of yeah. So there, I'm using all these good words that we learned today. Backfire, interpretation. That's my interpretation of what. Yeah, of course, Taiwan needs to be strong, and Taiwan's friends need to support Taiwan. But I do think that this is why I just think we need to be realistic. We need to keep a straight mind on these things. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. I wanted to, we don't have much time left, but I thought we would very quickly look at one more story because we usually try to look at least two stories. So maybe real quick. Now, we talked earlier about 假的, fake. And I thought this is very interesting because nowadays this has become a real problem with online news. We talked about cognitive warfare, right? And I think right now today with AI, it's very easy to do cognitive warfare. Have any of you played with ChatGPT? Okay. So you know what it can do, right? It's pretty amazing. So, with ChatGPT, you can just type, you can say, draw me a picture of this, right? And it will do it. It'll draw you a picture of something. And it's a pretty good picture, right? So it's amazing what it can do. But unfortunately, on the negative side, is they can create a lot of fake things. And we have to be very careful about that. So it says here, AI made fake history photos cloud the past. Now, when you say something clouds something, this is a word, you all know what cloud means, right? Today we have clouds outside, right, on the yun. But if you use this word as a 动词, what does that mean? To cloud something. Make it unclear. So if you could say this clouded his thinking, or his thinking was clouded by something, it means it made his thinking unclear. So that's a very good thing to remember. You can say his thinking was clouded by what they said to him. It means his thinking became very unclear. Okay? Does everybody understand that? To cloud something. Okay, it's almost like when something becomes cloudy, it's not clear, right? If there's clouds in the sky, it's not clear. So we say if something's cloudy, it's not clear. Okay? So fake history photos cloud the past. It means it makes the past, history, unclear, experts say. Okay? So we need to be very careful about that. So it says here, a wave of touching photos showing great moments in time is fascinating amateur historians online. The problem? They are not real and might be clouding our view of the past. Okay? So what is this word here? Touching photo. What does touching mean? Moving, M-O-V-I-N-G, moving, what does that mean? 很感动, right? So if something is very touching or very moving, it makes you feel very 感动. So a wave, it means a lot of, many touching photos showing great moments in time, like great moments in history. These are photographs. Is fascinating amateur historians. Now, you know what a historian is, right? What is a historian? Someone who studies history, right? But what is an amateur? Not professional, right? So you might say, I'm an amateur soccer player, 足球员 or whatever. It means I'm not professional. They don't pay me to play this game. Or I'm an amateur astrologer. I like to look at the stars, but I'm not a professional. I didn't study that. Okay? So why don't we say together, this word is a good word. It's very common. We pronounce the T with a ch sound, okay? So let's say together, amateur. Amateur. So again, the opposite of amateur is professional. If you're a professional or you're an amateur, you can say he's an amateur artist, okay? He likes to paint, but he's not a professional. He's not doing this as his job. He's not selling his paintings, okay? So this wave of photos is fascinating amateur historians online. Now, if something fascinates you, what does that mean? Yeah, it means it interests you very strongly. If you're fascinated by something, it means you are really, really interested in that thing, okay? If you say, what do you find fascinating? What things fascinate you, okay? I'm sure if I asked you in this room, you would all have different answers, right? Someone might say, I'm fascinated by sports cars, or I'm fascinated by science, or I'm fascinated by rock music, okay? Something that really, really interests me. So here when we say it's fascinating amateur historians, it means it's really interesting them. Okay, making them interested, I should say. Now, fascinating can be a 形容词. You can say, I find that fascinating, or that is fascinating. Okay, this is a very good word. We use it a lot. Okay, so why don't we say together, fascinating. Fascinating. And then if we say it as a 动词, we could say fascinated, T-E-D, by something. Okay, so why don't we say it, fascinated by. Fascinated by. Right, so someone might say, I am fascinated by science. I am fascinated by the stars. I'm fascinated by Japanese food. I don't know. Could be anything. Okay, so this is fascinating amateur historians online. The problem with these photos is they're not real. And they might be clouding, okay, here's that word, our view of the past. So it's making our idea about the past unclear because there's these fake 假的 photos, okay? Okay, any questions about that? There's some good words here. Okay, so let's read this. A wave of touching photos showing great moments in time is fascinating amateur historians online. The problem? They are not real and might be clouding our view of the past. Okay, just one more. We only have time for one more paragraph, but let's read this. It says, widely shared on social media, the atmospheric black and white shots, a mother and her child starving in the Great Depression, an exhausted soldier in the Vietnam War, might look at first like historic documents, okay? And then actually there's one more sentence I'll add here. It says, however, they were created by artificial intelligence and researchers fear they are muddying the waters of real history. There's another good word we'll talk about. So widely shared on social media on this 社群媒体, they're spreading these photos. Atmospheric black and white shots. Now when we say a shot, we mean a picture, like a photo. You shoot a picture, right? So a shot is a picture, a photograph, okay? Black and white,黑白, right? What does atmospheric mean? If a photograph is, or a movie, or a painting is very atmospheric, what does that mean? Well, it means it creates a strong feeling of something, okay? So it's almost like it creates an atmosphere, 环境. It makes you feel like you're in this atmosphere. Like, sometimes you look at a picture and you're just like, whoa, it really makes you feel like you're in the picture. You feel this certain emotion because it's giving you a strong, or you watch a movie and it's very atmospheric. It creates a strong mood. So the word mood, M-O-O-D, right? We could say it's atmospheric means something that gives you a strong mood or strong feeling, okay? Does everybody understand that? Yeah, ambiance is a good word. Ambiance is a word it means like atmosphere. So if we say there's a strong ambiance in this restaurant, that means a strong atmosphere, a strong feeling, a certain feeling. I think you can spell it either way. Yeah, A-N. I've spelled it that way many times. So I think it's spelled E-N or A-N, ambiance. Yeah, I'll go home and look that up, but I'm pretty sure A is okay too. I guess you can maybe spell it with an E too. I don't know. Yeah. So anyhow, ambiance. Why don't we say the word together? Ambiance. I use this word a lot for restaurants. Sometimes you go to a restaurant and it has a strong Japanese ambiance or a strong, Indian ambiance. It means an Indian atmosphere. Okay, so why don't we say together, atmospheric. Atmospheric. Okay, so some of these photos, for example, here they give examples. A mother and her child starving in the Great Depression. Do you know what the Great Depression is? Yeah, when the economy crashed in the United States and many people were starving. Of course, starving means not enough food. You don't have enough food to eat. So why don't we say together, starving? Starving. Now, we can be starving for other things too, right? You can be starving for knowledge. You can be starving for attention. You can be starving for love, anything that you really need and you want more of or you need more of. Okay, so mother and her child starving in the Great Depression. Okay, let's say together, Great Depression. An exhausted soldier in the Vietnam War, Yue Zhan, might look at first like historic documents, but, okay, however, they were created by AI, artificial intelligence, and researchers fear they are muddying the waters of real history. Now, this is a good expression, to muddy the waters, okay? What is mud? First of all, what is M-U-D, mud? Ni tu, right? Is it ni tu, isn't it? Yeah. So if you turn this into a 动词 and you muddy the waters, what does that mean? To make it unclear. Just like we said to cloud something, if something becomes clouded, it becomes unclear. If you muddy the waters, it means you make the water unclear. You cannot see, the water's not clear. So if you say this is muddying the waters, it means it is making it very unclear. So you can say this problem is muddying the waters. Your project is muddying the waters. It means it's making something less clear. Okay, so this is a very good expression. And we take the word mud and we turn it into muddying. Okay, now muddy is just a 形容词. Like if you can say the path is very muddy, there's a lot of mud on the path. But if you turn something and you make it more muddy, then it becomes muddying. It's kind of hard to say muddying. Okay, muddying the waters. Does everybody understand that? So that's saying that these fake photos are making real history unclear because they're 假的, they're not real. They're created by AI. Okay, I know we're out of time, so let's just read this and then we'll be done. Widely shared on social media. Social media. The atmospheric black and white shots. A mother and her child starving in the Great Depression. An exhausted soldier in the Vietnam War might look at first like historic documents. However, they were created by artificial intelligence. One more time, artificial intelligence. And researchers fear they are muddying the waters of real history. Okay, let's say this phrase one more time. Muddying the waters. Right, okay. Okay, well sorry, we're a little bit over time, but I just want to teach you some new words. So anyhow, I hope you enjoy the rest of your week. If you get a chance, go to the Taichung Jazz Festival, enjoy some good music, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
下一堂课就是下礼拜四，同样时间。对对对。好，现场的还没。